What is good, my people, my peeps? I am up, I am up, I am up. Oh my goodness. Couldn't sleep. I think I'm coming down with something, or I might be having the after effects of when I had that blow to my face and nose. I'm just feeling kind of ugh. Can't explain it, but anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. Here to talk about why I'm up when I should be asleep. Because I'm going to have to force myself to try to go to work tomorrow when I just truly I don't feel very good. That's another reason why this system sucks, right? It sucks to the fullest. But anyway, I'm here to talk about why I hate two words so very much. Excuse me. Well, I'm here to talk about why I hate two words so very much. And how I believe these two words have affected the society of black folk, Israel, excuse me, deeply. Oh my goodness. I mean, so very deep. Um, we hear on, and not just on these internet streets, you've probably heard before people used to use, or a lot of men would tell women, you have daddy issues. You have daddy issues, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, y'all. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a cold or I haven't been sick in so long, or is it because of the injury to my nose? It's draining, right? So I've been spitting a lot. So excuse me. I will not try to make it gross for you all as I talk. Um, but I don't know if it's my sinuses are draining, which caused me to wake up. But most of the time, I wake up around 3 o'clock anyway. You know, a lot of you guys, and this is I know side note for a quick second. 3 o'clock, you should be getting up praying if you're constantly waking up at 3 o'clock, right? They say that's the witching hour. These witches and warlocks are out here doing their spell work, which is God or Yah is trying to wake you up so you can get on board and start praying against these entities, right? Especially lately, if you've been waking up at 3 o'clock, uh, to start getting that warrior spirit in you. Because these folks, they try to take us out at all costs, okay? Anyway, back on the topic. Why I hate, there's two words that I hate. The B word and the MF word. Mm-hmm. And I thought about that as I was laying here, and probably because of tonight's, well, it's the morning time, so last night's live stream, I'm trying to ingrain into my message to this young lady that the B word is a no-go for me. It's an absolute no-go for me. And I think our society has just adopted it and just have been running with it. And I seen how it became mainstream. Oh my goodness. When, I don't know if you guys remember Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie when they had a reality show. I remember this as clear as day. Um, and they kept calling each other the B. You my B, oh B, bitch, you know. And I'm like, this is on network TV. But it was two white girls, and they, two rich white girls, right? Two rich white girls. And I'm just hearing this. At first, it was a shock to my system, and I was like, oh. But then I realized that they're trying to make this word mainstream. Because we heard it in the black community before, right? Yeah, we heard it in the black community. They were trying to make it mainstream so that it just could seem like it's just so it's cute. It's a pet name. It's something because that's my bee, that's my girl. But I'm gonna call her a derogatory name. And just instead of just saying that's my girl, that's my friend, that's my girlfriend, like we used to say, it's my girlfriend. But nowadays you can't even say that's my girlfriend because it has a different meaning. People will take it the wrong way. Okay? People will literally take that the wrong way. So it's like jumping in and out of hoops when it comes to these words out here on, in society. But I noticed that. I said, that's interesting. Why would they want to make the word be so mainstream? They 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 really haven't made the MF mainstream. That MF really has stayed mostly in the black community. Okay, and I know you know what I'm talking about. I don't even like to say it, but I'm gonna expound on it. Mother effer, okay, and so let me get right into to why I'm up tonight speaking to you all, and why I hate these two words. And when I say hate, this is a literal hate, okay? Um, because it affects how people perceive themselves and perceive others. It really does. It's like when the Bible mentioned bywords, that the Israelites would be called bywords. Byword, something negative with negative connotation to it. Yeah, you know. A negative meaning to it, such as nigga. We, you know, spice it up. We don't say nigga with the hard R, but a byword. And I believe in our community we have just accepted bywords of ourselves, or implemented these bywords as if it's cool, or if it makes you hard, or it just emphasizes a word, right? Mm-hmm. Like it emphasizes the meaning instead of being able just to talk in with this King's English that we have, that is a bastardized language, but it's the best we got while we're here. Um, no, we want to throw in B, you B. I don't MF with, let me see. I'm not a professional cusser, so forgive me. But mother effer, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't sound so hard when I'm not saying it fully with that behind it, but you get the point. You get the idea, right? So I was saying, why we have adopted these words so very much. And do we realize how they have affected us? So let me give you a story real quick. Because I also saw on TikTok where a mother uh, truly just went after her daughter, attacked her daughter. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Attacked her daughter. Now the first video has been taken down, but there's a second one that's left up, but it's not as violent as the first video. And so I'm going to show you a glimpse of that and how what I seen, it really stems back to slavery and the Willie Lynch letter, and how mothers have weakened the minds of their sons, right? And expected their daughters to be strong in mind. And so now you have out here just a hostile environment when it comes to men and women relationships in the black community, because men are so upset, and they say women are so masculine, and they want them to be submissive, but their mother has trained them to be dominant, right? And before it was another blame game was on women. Well, you have daddy issues, right? Men would say that to women who had issues in relationships, and so that would just be a comeback. You have daddy issues. What issues do men have? Let's think about it. They have issues too. Being raised to be weak in the mind but strong in the body. And you probably think, oh, you're being so harsh saying that. You're being so rude. No, that literally is part of Willie Lynch syndrome, the development of a slave. Uh-huh. For the male child. Make him weak in the mind but strong in the body. Strong so that he can be out in the field. Yeah. Working out in the field, strong. You know, some of them, they wanted them to be mandingos, breeding like a breeding animals on a farm. Mandingo, right? And since I'm here talking about the mandingo, there's rarely any time you hear people talk about slavery. You hear them talk about the breeding farms, right? The breeding farms for slaves. Yeah, just like you might want a new little puppy with, good quality, a good breed, a good stock. They had breeding farms. But women, we produce one child every 9 months. That's. But I can only imagine in slavery how that was abused. As soon as the child popped out, they probably was not even given time to heal before they were forced to breed again, right? So that leads me to this MF word, mother effer. It comes from the breeding farms and how they would send male childs blindfolded into stable-like environments, like in a barn with women, to breed them. And you might say, well, why would they have a blindfold on? Why would they blindfold them? That's where the word mother effer comes in. Yeah. You see, if you walked into a breeding farm or was forced to go into a breeding farm and you seen your mother there and they wanted you to lay with her, most likely there would be some kind of resistance, a lot of resistance, fighting, refusal. So the slave master picked up on this. We need to breed more slaves because slaves were currency, slaves were money, and it didn't matter who they bred these slaves with. But if they knew that they were going to use their mother, a male slave's own mother, to be a breeder, you know, they knew that they would have to blindfold that male slave to cut down on the refusal of going in and mating, mounting their own mother. Mm-hmm. When I heard about the history of the word mother effer, it sickened me to think that these slave masters would do that to an individual. And after these slaves that had completed the act of mounting their own mothers, so the slave master can produce more slaves, more currency for them, they would take the blindfold off and traumatize the male child even more. And then they would say, look at you, taunting and teasing. Look at this mother effer. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mother effer, mother er stems all the way back to slavery. But in the black community, we seem to use that word so very freely. You know, so strong, the emphasis that people use that word. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure a lot of people don't even know where the word originates from. Well, that's where it originates from. So that's why I say there's two words that I hate: the B word and mother effer. Now we know the B word is a female dog. And my goodness, they use that as a derogatory word for females. And it's quite interesting because it's a dog, right? It's even mentioned in the Bible about, Yahweh Shai. He don't have, he don't mess around with the other nations. That was not his purpose to come here. You know, he don't mess around with those dogs, right? Dogs, general dogs. But our black folks have emphasized the female dog, the bee, as if this female has been going around from times past, dogging men out, right? So I just want to give you guys a backstory of why these two words I despise and how they have hurt us in our community and how we perpetuate these two words. I'm not saying that I don't use cuss words. I don't curse anyone. I don't put spells on people. But sometimes you might get cussed out. But those two words, especially MF, I don't use at all, simply because of the stigma and the history of mother effer and how it's directly related to all of your ancestors, Israel, all of your ancestors that traumatized these men to take blindfolds off to show them who they were forced to lay with, simply so the slave master could get more slaves. I can't even bring myself to use that word. So when I hear it come out of my people's mouth so hard, when they're cussing and just, they want to emphasize words, I'll be like, choose other words. Choose better. And how the Willie Lynch syndrome is live in effect, where mothers still have that stigma. And I see it in women. They have raised their daughters to be stronger in the mind. That's where you hear men say, oh, you have masculine energy, because they raised their daughters to survive in this world. So consider survival as possessing masculine energy. Before I show you what has been viral on TikTok, this mother, and show you exact scribed when he was talking about how to make a slave, I seen it clear as day in this TikTok video. The first one has been taken down, but you'll get the gist of it, and I'll show you here in a minute. But I remember when I was young and had my first appointment, when you first move out of the house, and you're so excited, right? It's real independence now. You're free. I met a lady who lived in Atlanta, the same apartment complex, right? She had two children. She had a son and she had a daughter. There was something very interesting about this woman. I found interesting, and I picked up on her patterns. You see, you might say patterns. Yes, we all have patterns, and so I've always observed people. So it has never been hard for me to work with children when we had to write, reports, what we observed, not our own opinion, but the actual incident of what you see, right? So I noticed that excuse me, this particular woman had more of an affection for her older son. Let me check if the sound went out. Mic check. Let me check if the sound went out. Okay. Mic check. My alarm went off. I don't think I'll be able to make it because I'm telling you, I'm starting to feel sick, and I haven't felt sick in a long, long time. And I'm thinking it's due to that blow to the face and head from work. But anyway, this lady had more of an affectionate, a softer demeanor towards her son than her daughter. Now, her son was, I'd say at the time, early preteen, so around probably 12, 13 years old. But her daughter, cute as can be, little yellow bone little girl, just adorable. Adorable. You hear me? This little girl had to be every bit of 4 years old. Picture this. But I noticed something, I observed something about her mother. Um, she was a single mother. And anytime she would have or meet a fella, a guy she was dating, she would, you know, not come around, not talk to us or me, the other women. She'd be gone in the wind. We wouldn't see her. And only time we see her was in passing. Like, hello, goodbye. Like she ain't know us from Adam, right? But as soon as that Negro left, I remember she dated a man that she let move into her home with some of his furniture. This man came on a day she was working, cleaned out, moved out, and left her a roll of toilet paper. You might say, how do you know? How do you know what she left? What he left ethereal? Because that's when she comes back around. That's when she would come back around and need to reach out to the feminine party, the comb girls, right? That's when she would want to talk. When those men left, and we would see her again. And it would be like, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's hang out here. Hey, let's go here. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't spend time with your significant other, husband, or whatnot. There should be a balance. It shouldn't be ghosting, as they say. People that are females that are there for you. And then when you find a male come waltz into your life for a brief second, it's ghost, gone, in the wind. That's how she was, okay? Just to give you a backstory on her. There was one day I was over her house. This is when she didn't have a man, right? So, it was, come on over and hang out. You're invited then. That's cool. That's her domain. So I remember going over to her house, chilling, talking. And her little 4-year-old daughter did something. I can't recall. This has been ages ago. This little girl did something minor. You hear me? She ain't said nothing on fire. There was no paint on the wall. I mean, something minor, guys. This stuck with me to this day. That's why I'm telling you this story. Why that B word, I do not like. I actually hate it because it affects the next generation and the next generation that it is used on. So the mother proceeded to call her little girl, a 4-year-old child, a bitch. Let me tell you something. The way she called that little girl a bitch sends chills through my grown ass body as I looked at her in utter shock. I had never heard a parent, a mother, call their own daughter, their own flesh and blood, a bitch, with so much venom in their voice. As that little girl looked up at her mother with those eyes, you know, those little precious innocent eyes. And I looked at the mother with shock, utter shock, and disbelief, okay? Um, and awe. How can you call your own 4-year-old daughter a bitch? But sadly to say, that was not the first time, and it wasn't the last time I had heard her call her daughter a bitch. I heard her call her daughter a bitch twice. And that second time, because the first time I was in utter shock. Utter shock. Couldn't believe it. Just disbelief, okay? That second time, oh, we gonna have to part ways. You was trying to be ghost. You got a man, sister. I'm gonna be ghost because your your mental health is not stable. And I knew that she would be messing her daughter's mind up. And I was a young child, you know, an adult, living fancy free on my own, enjoying life, you know, the bumps and the bruises of life. I couldn't relate to this woman. I can relate to women when they have mother issues because we all have issues, you know. Mothers learning children. We don't come here with a parent's guidebook, right? And they didn't either. So it's so ironic that we hold our parents with so much venom of how they did their best of trying to raise us without the parent guidebook. Right? So I remember I moved from that complex and I moved to another complex. And shockingly, this same woman, I moved into it's a fourplex. It was a fourplex. I moved from an apartment to a fourplex, a nicer area. I was tired of living in the apartment life. I felt I was becoming more mature. And so I moved into a fourplex. And this woman moved into this fourplex right next door to me. Yeah, true story. It's like, oh, okay. But anyway, I had a cousin. I called him a cousin because my dad had a pretend brother. You know how in the army there's a buddy system, and then they went to boot camp together, and they just became best of friends, had children, and so and I think they came from the same hometown or city, matter of fact. But anyway, so the friend's child, we just called him like our cousin, our pretend cousin. You know how black folks do. Y'all know how we do. We got pretend cousins all over the place. So my pretend cousin had came down. He was stationed where I was living, and he had came down, and I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up, cuz? Yeah, come over, blah blah blah." So, mic check one more time, y'all. Mic check. Oh, mic check one more time, y'all. I need to turn off that doggone alarm, but I'm not gonna keep y'all too much longer. Um, and so anyway, long story short, my pretend cousin came over to my house. We hung out. So he met my neighbor, and while he was hanging out, being stationed where I was at, he was like, I hate living in the barracks, yada, 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 because of, barracks life. Never lived in the barracks, but I could imagine living amongst a lot of soldiers. And so I was like, oh, you can stay, because I was still single, and I had a two-bedroom. And I said, you can stay, but you got to help pay some rent. You can't just, lounge up in here. I've always been that way. And so he was like, cool, cuz, cool. So the day that he was supposed to move in, um, I went over to my next door neighbor's house and he was there. And I was like, what's up? What y'all doing? I just being funny, right? Oh, we want to talk to you. And I'm like, what? Like, first of all, that's not my man, the way she said it. But anyway, oh, your cuz, he's gonna move in with me. I was like, oh, really? And my cousin, like, yeah, honey, if I got to tell you, she put her claws so deep into this man. It was probably 2 weeks. She done took him down to the courthouse and married him. Now she was older. My cousin was a young jit. Okay. But I had nothing to say. But I just wanted to tell y'all that story, and I had to finish it out. That this woman, I believe, had some psychological issues dealing with how she was raised, how she perceived men, and how she perceived women, and how she treated her daughter, especially calling her daughter a bitch. Now, fast forward years, and I do mean years later. I believe this is when Facebook first came on the scene and it was popular, and um, we linked back up via Facebook. And I was like, oh my, it's because it's so amazing when you see people's children that grow up when you have seen them as little children, right? When you see them grow up as adults, you're like, oh gosh, it's like back in the day when there used to be a lot of family reunions that have died out. When you've gone to a family, I remember you when you was in your Pampers. You'd be looking like, woman, I don't know you. um, so via Facebook, I seen how the kids had grew up. And I was like, oh, and the young girl, she had grew up, she had did cheerleading and all this stuff. And I was like, well, look at them. They look so good. I'm not going to say this is the reason why this young lady may have made the choices that she made as far as a partner in life. But it makes me wonder, was how her mother treated her, was that a major cause in who she chose to partner up with? I kept going through, the Facebook and liking pictures, dropping comments. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I realized that her daughter had grew up and was a lesbian. Okay, and she was part of that crew, and I was like, it really didn't shock me, but it made me wonder because I only got a glimpse of how her mother treated her. Did it make her switch to liking women, or what was what caused that? You know, I thought about that, and that's a major reason why I hate the word bitch. One of them, one of many. Why I hate the word bitch. Because mothers have used that on their daughters. Fathers have used that on their daughters. And I'm talking about little children that grow up thinking that they're a bitch. That it's okay to be called a bitch, be referred to as a bitch. A derogatory term. A female dog. No respect at all. You have instilled in your child. And so, I've already given you the backstory of Mother Effa, Mother Ferg, right? That one, I just pray that us as black folks, Israel, we toss that one smooth out the window, smooth out of your life, your vocabulary, forever. Just if you understand the history of the word Mother Effa, it just should do something. Put chills in your soul. So I'm going to show a video that, like I said, had been circling on TikTok of a mother who is showing the Willie Lynch syndrome live in full effect in 2024. She has made her son, 20 years old, may I add, weak in the mind, but strong in the body, because it's a big boy. A big young man, because he's not no boy. This is a young man who she's weak and handicapped. And she expects her daughter to feed and cook, for this individual, her brother. But what was the thing that had this circulate on TikTok was how the mother just attacked the daughter. The daughter's telling her mother, I was just trying to study and trying to, do her homework. This is the younger daughter. She was, get out of my house. Because this girl didn't feed or cook for a 20-year-old grown young man who could do it for himself. Hell, I taught my son how to cook. He was cooking in middle school, frying chicken, honey. Okay? So, let me see. Turn this around. So y'all can see this video real quick. It's the embodiment of the Willie Lynch syndrome. Exactly how Willie Lynch taught slave masters to break the male in the mind so he could be weak. So when I hear this masculine energy and all this, I said, these people really, they're not studied people. They're just regurgitating what they've heard on social media, not knowing the origin of words, the origin of behavior that is ingrained generation after generation after generation. So I'm going to try to hold this up. Let me turn this around to my top. You're going to see the second part of this video, guys, right here. Let me turn it up for you guys. Before the mom came home and literally right when she walked in the door. Let's get into it. Let me pause it real quick. She says, if you didn't hear her, because she's very upset, because the mom has come home from work and she expects for this 17-year-old girl to cook and clean and take care of her 20-year-old brother who sits in front of a gaming system smoking weed all day. The mother lunges, towards the young girl, tells her to get out because she's trying to study and get her homework done and keep the house maintained. This is the epitome of the Willie Lynch syndrome. You're going to see the mother open the door and baby her son by saying, I think his name is Andrew, but you'll see it on the screen. Did you eat today, baby? When he says, no, she didn't cook for me. All I ate was cereal. As if he was 3 years old. This is the older brother. The mother gets infuriated at the young 17-year-old daughter. The Willie Lynch syndrome is live and in full effect in 2024. Make your sons weak in the mind, but big in the bronze of their body, so they can work in the fields. But it's reversed, so they can sit in front of gaming systems and do nothing, and make your daughters strong, but then get beat down in these streets because they'll be told that they have masculine energy, survival energy, because the mother has instilled that in her daughter rather than her son. Let's continue. Just to clarify, he was 20, not 22. That's my fault. These two clips I'm about to roll in next before the mom came home and literally right when she walked in the door. Let's get into it. Okay, so I just wanted to play that fully for you guys so that you can see how the Willie Lynch syndrome is live and in effect in 2024. Okay, that is the breaking of the male. So a lot of you guys may wonder why there is an epidemic on the streets where you hear a lot of these men. I want a submissive wife. This is where you see they're bred. They're bred. The Willie Lynch syndrome. And believe that that is how it's supposed to be. And then we'll turn around. And like her mother cussed her out. They took down the first video. That's scrubbed from the internet. I was trying to find it because it showed the mom literally lunging at the little girl, young lady, because she's 17. Simply because she had got to maintain the house, but then she was, doing her homework like a 17-year-old child supposed to do. Not cater to her 20-year-old brother. Oh, I read the comments. Some people, oh, the mother must be sleeping with the mother. No, I doubt it. But you never know. What I saw was the Willie Lynch letter in full effect. And it reminded me of that little girl that I witnessed. The same situation, not as intense, but probably so. Because I saw a 4-year-old girl, baby girl, being called a bitch by her own mother. And how they idolize these men that obviously didn't want them. I've seen how men came in and used them and left them because they had no essence of their own. So I was just, sitting here up late night. Thought I'd hop on and do a blackout live with you all. Before I get out of here, I'm going to let you listen to this man. I can't recall his name. I think he's a motivational speaker. And I want you guys to hear what he has to say. It kind of lines up with what I was saying a couple of days ago when I did a Blackout Live. Okay? And the Blackout Live, when I mentioned the birds, the bluebirds and all of that. I want you to hear this motivational speaker because my life path has truly been, although now that I do get stalked and by strangers, bots, weirdos, um, I still love people. Okay, um, even I did the live earlier tonight, Sean. I've always tried to even elevate my own people. And these very people, some of them have targeted me. Yeah, yeah, that's how it goes down. Yep. But I don't have a trick for them. I know that they will be judged. I know that, and I realize something about me. And I didn't realize this until I worked for iHeart. Um, that I change atmospheres. I realized that I change atmospheres when I walk into rooms. I make a difference, right? Although they probably thought that they were getting over doing their dirt or whatever to me, they didn't know who they had in their presence, right? I witnessed people lose jobs that had been there 30 years, but had me try to set me up, right? I mean, house in a whole division. It got so empty that I was the only one in the office at iHeart. The only one down at my division. That's how y'all works. And I didn't realize that until I worked at iHeart. You see, people are going to look at you and think that you are here and you have no purpose here. I tell you, you are witnesses. You may change atmospheres as well. These people don't know who they are truly messing with. People don't know who they're truly messing with because you're cloaked in this fleshly body and you don't have a superior title, right? So you may get stalked, harassed. But these people are, in a sense, sealing their own doom by messing with you, their own fate. I see people get out the way, messing with me. I've seen Yah bring the punishment back around to individuals who have thought that they have been mightier than you. I've seen it when I worked at iHeart. I see it now. And I see it in new areas that I have ventured into. And I even, because I recognize it for what it is, try to forewarn these people in a nice way. Be careful. Be careful. I don't want to be a witness to you burning in hellfire. Be careful. You do know who you are messing with. You truly don't. And I truly understood and understand and understand when Yahweh say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They know not who they mess with. They know not who they are trying to traumatize. They know not what they do. They have an option when it comes to you, a choice. How they will interact with you is priceless in their decisions in this realm and beyond. It's priceless. You know, I say it's priceless because they're gambling with infinity and beyond. The choices that they're making when it comes to you and I realized that when I left iHeart, well, when I got the boot, when I was fighting, and I wanted to, because there is a fighter in all of us, and I try to suppress it. I do. That's probably why I stayed longer than I should have there at that company, because I wanted to see them crumble. I can recall one of my last business meetings, teams meetings, with one of the VP. I had to throw a line from the color purple on them. Until you do right by me, everything you do will crumble. I was so upset. That's the only thing I could think of, right? I want you guys to listen to this inspirational speaker, Wayne Dryer. Just happened to be laying here and he came on. I don't know, like I told you guys, messages, our mission, stuff just comes on. You might need to hear the messages. Like I said, although I have people who plan, plot, and some of them enjoy being just evil, downright evil. They enjoy it. But they don't know what they do. So I said earlier, 3 minutes ago, forgive them for they know not what they do. But that's not meaning you're not gonna get this tongue lashing. Let you know who you talking to, who you dealing with. So when it comes to Judgment Day, my very essence will be brought up to your remembrance. My very essence. When you stand before the Almighty, oh, you will remember what you did to one of Yah's anointed. Oh, yes. So let's listen to Wade Dryer. And like I was saying, I think I was about to touch on, there's 2 paths that I've always taken in life. Communications, that's, dealing with my degrees, concentration in PR, and dealing with children. All of it, to be said, is dealing with people, basically. Okay? And animals, and being connected to animals and nature. And yeah. So let's listen to him, and I'm going to run it back. Hold on. Let me get past a commercial real quick, and I'm going to let y'all hear this, and then I'm going to get off of here and let y'all start your day or go to bed. Okay? Turn it up.
Somebody. And I remember my response. My response was that if I've got hemorrhoids and somebody out there is convincing me that crystals are going to heal them, I'm ordering crystal chairs.
Y'all get into this message.
I mean, all you have to do is understand something called a placebo. And what is a placebo? It's nothing more than a convincing belief. If I hand you this pill and say this pill is going to cure your arthritis, and you take it, and the pill is just a sugar pill, but your arthritis disappears, I'm into buying those placebos. Where can I get some of those placebos? And it's true of everything. And it's when you think about all the things that we enjoy and what our life is like, um, it took people who had a mind that wasn't closed to allow us to make the progress that we've made. Progress is impossible if you always do things the way you've always done things. But the other word in this, what Talopa said, is
Sorry, y'all.
be
I'm trying to get
attached
into something.
nowhere. Be attached nowhere. Attachment really means I am deluding myself into a belief that if I can't have or if I can't do this or that thing, then somehow I am going to become immobilized. So an open mind that is detached. In in my most recent book, in A Spiritual Solution to Every Problem, I have an observation. And it's an observation from Anthony DeMello, a man I respect enormously, a priest, who, in The Way to Love, puts it this way. Here's a great test for your relationships, especially the relationships that you're in with those whom you love, not your children, but your spouses and your lovers and so on. Try this test on for size. 1, I am not really attached to you at all. I am merely deluding myself into the belief that without you, I will not be happy. And 2, and here's the toughest test for non-attachment. I leave you free to be yourself, to
Let me
think your
pause
thoughts.
that real quick because you probably want to.
Indulge.
Why would you think like that? I want you to really take heed because a lot of people lose themselves. People lose themselves in relationships because they give their all to another. And you probably say this is some kind of outward thinking, some kind of new world thinking, spiritual thinking. But even in the Bible, it says, Yahweh shot you. Don't love your mother, your sister, your brother more than you love me. Let's continue.
Taste, follow your inclinations, behave in ways that you decide are to your liking. How's that for a challenge? And so what most of us do in our relationships and why they are not as successful as we would like them to be is that we become attached and we tell ourselves that if this person behaves in a way that I find offensive, then I can't be happy. I make my happiness, my fulfillment dependent upon those people that I love being what I think that they should be. And detachment doesn't mean being a victim. It just simply means I know that I can make my life fulfilled and happy by having a mind that is open to everything and attached nowhere. The second principle is a very simple principle. It says you can't give away what you don't have. Now it sounds ridiculous, okay? But it's more than what meets the ear as you hear this. You can't give away what you don't have. People who are not good at giving away love can't give away love because they don't have it to give away.
They don't have it.
If I want to give you a dozen
Okay,
oranges,
now we're getting deep. Now we're getting deep, guys. Because I close every live stream or video with wishing and sending much love to you all. That is something I'm big on. But you can't give that if you don't have it, right? It gets deep. Love, joy, all of that. If you, I don't know, if you tapped into my live stream, that last blackout live stream, when I told you those 4 bluebirds came and joy filled my body, that just was a recharge to let me know you're here. You're here for a reason, a purpose. Let's get into it.
I can't give you those dozen oranges unless I go out and pick up 12 oranges someplace. Otherwise, all it is just empty rhetoric. And the same thing is true of virtually everything in your life. You can't give away love for others if you don't have love in here to give away. If what you have in here is contempt, if what you have in here is anger, if what you have in here is fear, then these are the things you're going to be giving away in your life. And I've often thought, and I really believe very strongly that there's a law, sort of a law in the universe. I call it the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is one that works like this. You get back from the universe, from the world, what it is that you put out there in the world. And if you're...
Pause for the cause. They love to use that law of attraction, manifestation, and all this, but it's basically talking about what Yah has, He will give back to you, the Most High. I just wanted to clarify. Let's continue.
Putting out there into the world that
Oh, commercial. You gotta let them get paid. Okay, here we go.
am not worthy of attracting something beautiful into my life, that the universe will respond back to you with exactly that message. And there are people who come to me and who came to me for years when I had my own counseling practice and so on, and they would say to me, I just keep attracting the same kind of people, the same kind of events, the same kind of losers into my life. Why is that? Why do I keep doing that? And I keep attracting an absence of abundance. I just can't seem to attract abundance into my life. I'm always behind the 8 ball. I'm never getting ahead. And I suggested to them, I said, did it ever occur to you that that's the very kind of message you're sending out to the world and out to the universe? That the ocean of abundance is there. And you can go to that ocean of abundance and you can take a Mack truck and you can fill it up 20 times a day and take it out of there, and guess what? It doesn't impact at all the ocean of abundance. It doesn't.
Let me break this down, because I know some of you guys might get lost, because he's more speaking on a spiritual aspect as far as something you might not understand. Speaking into your life, knowing, speaking, understanding, and feeling that you are healthy, you are wealthy, you are rich. Yes, you might be dirt poor right now, but don't think it, don't say it, because these things do manifest. It says in the holy book, do you not know the power of the tongue? Let's continue.
Even go down a zillionth of an inch. It's unlimited. Or you can go to the same ocean of abundance with a eyedropper. And you can just take this much out once a month and say, that's all that seems to be available for me. And the interesting thing for me is that when people go to this ocean of abundance, this unlimited world, all that I have is thine, it says in the holy books. All that I have is thine. It's all there for you. But if you believe inside that it's limited, that you can only get so much, that other people are going to get it before you do, then you'll find yourself creating that very same thing. And the even more interesting part about this, you can't give away what you don't have principle, is that if your message to the universe is gimme, 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 which is a lot of people's message to the universe. I want this from you. I want that from you. Please give me this. I have to have that. That's what their prayer is like. That's what their message is. You know, and they say, I want this from the universe. Gimme, gimme, gimme. The universe's response back to that kind of an mentality
not the universe.
is exactly the same. The universe will say right back to you over and over again, gimme, gimme, gimme. And you'll find yourself never, ever arriving, but always being in a state of striving, always feeling as if you're being neglected, never feeling as if you have enough, always feeling as if you're being shortchanged, because you're constantly under the pressure to give, to get back what the universe is demanding from you. And the interesting thing about all of this, the irony of this, is that if you shift that and you say to the universe, to the world, how may I serve? How may I serve? The universe's response back to you is, how may I serve you? How may I serve you? And it's very intriguing when you take your energy and your attention off of what you are demanding from the world and instead saying, what can I give to the world? And it's really the basis behind that very famous line of the President John Kennedy's inaugural address. Ask not what your country can do, ask what you can do for your country. And the irony of that is, and I've learned that in my own life, that when I stopped thinking about what was in it for Wayne Dyer and how much could I get, and I began to shift and say, how can I help you? How can I give to you? What can I do for you? And people who write to me, I send them something. When I encounter somebody that needs help with back into my life.
Let them get paid. Commercial. I'm gonna skip it in a minute.
And once I shifted that energy off of what can I have into what can I give, it seemed to me that the universe responded back with the very same message. What can I give to you? And the most incredible and wonderful and beautiful abundance has flowed into my life in every way that I can possibly think of. You can't give away what you don't have. So take a look at an inventory of what you do have. How much do you love yourself? How much kindness do you have in you? How much peace do you have in you? How much joy do you have in you? And if you're able to give that away as many times as you can in a given day, watch and see how much more of that continues to show up and come back in your life. Okay? The third principle is one of my very favorites. It's called, there are no justified resentments.
Now, this is good, y'all. Get into
This
it.
is a very difficult principle for
This
many
last
people
one is
to
good.
get, but one that I believe very strongly in. I was in a group one time of drug addicts and alcoholics. And I was one of the people that was a sponsor and leading this group. And the sign on the wall said, there are no justified resentments in this group. And what I said to that group that night was, no matter what anybody says to you here, no matter what kind of anger comes directed towards you, no matter how much hate you may encounter showing up in your life, there are no justified resentments. Meaning that if you carry around resentment inside of you about anything or about anyone, and I'm talking about the person that you lent money to and hasn't paid you back, I'm talking about the person in your life that you feel was abusive in your life, I'm talking about the person who walked out on you and left you for somebody else. I'm talking about all of the things that you have justified in your heart and in your life that you have the right to be resentful about. And I'm suggesting to you that those resentments will always end up harming you. There. I've often said that no one ever dies from a snake bite. The snake bite will never kill you. You cannot be unbitten. Once you're bitten, you're bitten. But it's the venom that continues to pour through your system after the bite that will end up destroying you. So now you have to take a look at all of the resentments that you may have in your life. And I'd like to suggest to you that I think there is a wonderful metaphor for this that I have created in my life for how to make this work. And I think that Regis Philbin is the one who's responsible for it. All right? My buddy Regis. There's a show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire that has been popular all over the world. In South Africa, it comes on. All right? I was in Australia, and they've got their own Australian version. And in Greece, they have the Greek edition of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And basically, this show has two levels that you have to get to. Now, the first level is the $1,000 level. And at the $1,000 level, you basically have to answer a question like, on your hand, you have some digits. Those digits on your hand are called your feet, your nose, your ears, your fingers. And everybody who ever goes on the show has this horrible dread that they're going to go out on one of those questions, right? So basically, in order to get to the $1,000 level, all you have to do is answer 5 pretty simple questions in order to get to the $1,000 level. Now, on this program, the $1,000 level for you in this metaphor means that you will leave with something if you get this. At least get this. This is the $1,000 level. You must send blame out of your life for any conditions of your life. Blame has to go. All right? Now, blame means if you're sitting there with a disease, you say without guilt, it's mine, I take responsibility for it. This means that if you have been through any tough circumstances in your life, this means if you have a minimal amount of financial security in your life, this means if your children don't get along with you, this means that if your neighbors are taking up a petition to get you out of the neighborhood, whatever it might be that's going on in your life, you name it, and everybody across this great country and across this world has a series of these things that you're willing to say, I am here because of the choices that I have made right now. I'm willing to say that. Even though it's difficult, and we know it's really not your fault. We know really there's a lot of people out there who are really bad, all right? But you're willing to say no blame. That's the first level.
There's an art to making the complex feel simple. Everything has to work in perfect.
All right? That's where you understand no justified resentment. And then on the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire show, there is what is called the $32,000 level. And the $32,000 level is not only an opportunity for you to walk away with a sizable amount of goodies, which you can walk away from tonight in this program, but it also is the door opener to multi-wealth. But you got to get to this in order to have an opportunity to move into these transcendent levels, all right? Millionaire spiritual status, all right? You got to get through these next 5 questions. And this $32,000 question, or level rather, comes to this. It came to me from a quotation that I used in the writing of a spiritual solution to every problem. I read a book that was written a couple of thousand years ago by Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras, the aphorisms of Patanjali. And one of those sutras, one of those aphorisms, observations that this brilliant man made almost 2,000 years ago was this. He said, if you become steadfast in your abstentions of thoughts of harm directed towards others, all living creatures will cease to feel enmity in your presence. Now, this translates to blame, pretty basic. No more blame. I'm just not going to assign responsibility to other people for where I am, because now I have an opportunity to get rid of it. If I think someone else caused it, then I've got to wait for somebody else to change in order for me to get rid of it, and you might wait forever for that. But if I take responsibility for it, I can do something, including move on, which might be the most important thing to do. But at the higher level, when there are no justified resentments, what you are doing is what St. Francis did, Francesco. What you are doing is you are at a place where you are sending love in response to hate. You are literally saying, no matter what comes my way, I am going to be steadfast in my abstention of thoughts of harm directed toward others. I'm going to want to come out of me, and that is love, and that is a higher energy. And if you can get to that level, Patanjali said, all living creatures will cease to feel enmity in your presence. I have a little girl, a precious little girl. I have 6 precious girls and 2 precious sons, but I have a little girl who is almost 12. And she loves animals like no one I've ever met in my life. I mean, her whole life revolves around animals. And when we walk in the woods, butterflies avoid me, fly away from people around, and they come and they land right on her arm, and it happens all the time. All living creatures, she couldn't have a thought of harm directed towards any living creature. And Patanjali said to us, all living creatures will cease to feel fear or enmity or anger in the presence of those who can send love in response to hate. That's what I mean when I say there are no justified resentments. What I'd like to do, I'd like to share a little story here with you. It's a very tender story. It was sent to me by someone who sends me beautiful things in the mail. And I call it the Teddy story. And I'd like to read this to you, if I can do it without tearing up. And this story illustrates this as well as anything I've ever seen. There's a story many years ago of an elementary school teacher. Her name was Mrs. Thompson. As she stood in front of her 5th grade class on the very first day of school, she told the children a lie. Like most teachers, she looked at her students and said that she loved them all the same. But that was impossible because there in the front row, slumped in his seat, was a little boy named Teddy Stoddard. Mrs. Thompson had watched Teddy the year before and noticed that he didn't play well with the other children, that his clothes were messy, and that he constantly needed a bath. Teddy could be unpleasant. It got to the point where Mrs. Thompson would actually take delight in marking his papers with a broad red pen and making bold X's and then putting a big F at the top of his papers. At the school where Mrs. Thompson taught, she was required to review each child's past records, and she put Teddy's off until last. However, when she reviewed his file, she was in for a surprise. Teddy's 1st grade teacher wrote, "Teddy's a bright child with a ready laugh. He does his work neatly and he has good." Grade teacher wrote, "Teddy's an excellent student, well liked by his classmates. But he's troubled because his mother has a terminal illness and life at home must be a struggle." His 3rd grade teacher wrote, "His mother's death has been hard on him. He tries to do his best, but his father doesn't show much interest, and his home life will soon affect him if..."
The pineal
Let's
gland
get
has
past this
tiny little
commercial.
cilia, hair-like extensions all around.
Steps aren't taken. Teddy's 4th grade teacher wrote, "Teddy's withdrawn and doesn't show up much interest in school. He doesn't have many friends, and sometimes he even sleeps in class." By now, Mrs. Thompson realized the problem, and she was ashamed of herself. She felt even worse when her students brought her Christmas presents wrapped in beautiful ribbons and bright paper, except for Teddy's. His present was clumsily wrapped in his heavy brown paper that he got from the grocery bag. Mrs. Thompson took pains to open it in the middle of the other presents. Some of the children started to laugh when she found a rhinestone bracelet with some of the stones missing and a bottle that was 1/4 full of perfume. But she stifled her children's laughter when she exclaimed how pretty the bracelet was, putting it on and dabbing some of the perfume on her wrist. Teddy Stoddard stayed after school that day just long enough to say, "Mrs. Thompson, today you smell just like my mom used to." After the children left, she cried for at least an hour. On the very day, she quit teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, and instead, she began to teach children. Mrs. Thompson paid particular attention to Teddy. As she worked with him and his mind seemed to come alive, the more she encouraged him, the faster he responded. By the end of the year, Teddy had become one of the smartest children in the class, and despite her lie, became one of her teacher's pets. A year later, she found a note under the door from Teddy, telling her that she was still the best teacher he ever had in his whole life. 6 years went by before she got another note from Teddy. He then wrote that he had finished high school third in his class, and she was still the best teacher he ever had in his whole life. 4 years after that, she got another letter saying that while things had been tough at times, he stayed in school and stuck with it, and would soon graduate from college with the highest of honors. He assured Mrs. Thompson that she was still the very best and favorite teacher he ever had in his whole life. Then 4 more years passed, and yet another letter came. This time he explained that after he got his bachelor's degree, he decided to go a little further. The letter explained that she was still the best and favorite. Mark F. Stoddard, M.D. But the story doesn't end there. You see, there was yet another letter that spring. Teddy said he'd met this girl and was going to be married. He explained that his father had died a couple of years ago, and he was wondering if Mrs. Thompson might agree to sit in the place at the wedding that was usually reserved for the mother of the groom. Of course, Mrs. Thompson did, and guess what? She wore that bracelet, the one with several rhinestones missing. And she made sure she was wearing the perfume that Teddy remembered his mother wearing on their last Christmas together. They hugged each other, and Dr. Stoddard whispered in Mrs. Thompson's ear, "Thank you so much for making me feel important and showing me that I could make a difference." Mrs. Thompson came with tears in her eyes and whispered back, "Teddy, you have it all wrong. You were the one who taught me that I could make a difference. I didn't know how to teach until I met you." Isn't that a...
Yes, isn't that a beautiful story? And sometimes the students teach the teachers. Guys, I'm gonna get up out of here. Good evening, Eve. I'm gonna get out of here. You're a new subscriber. Thank you for subscribing. And remember, sometimes the students teach the teachers. That teacher was mean to that little boy. That teacher was taking pleasure in marking his paper up with a red pen, putting a big F. Enjoyment. Remember, as you go out here and listen, some people will take enjoyment in things that they do to you. The harm that they think may harm you. But sometimes, as they look upon you and see that you are continuing, you are pushing on, they will learn from you. All right, guys, I'm out, and much, much love.